Hey there, welcome to Generations Wealth Talk. My name's Todd Watley. I am your host as always, and I hope everyone had a great holiday season, and it is now the first of the year. And so for this first show of the year, I wanted to bring on a very special guest of mine, and so this is Abby Pleasure, and she is my daughter, okay? And so, hey Abby, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Abby works in the office with me, Generations Legal Group, and she's been there since summer?
No,
fall?
November of 24.
Okay, November of, has it been that long?
Yeah, it's been more than a year.
Okay. Time flies when you're having fun. So Abby works with me, and so how is it working with Dad?
So fun. No, it really is. It's great. I love being able to contribute to the office, and I think we keep a pretty good family environment, even with those that aren't in the family in our office. We all get along really well. We have pretty lighthearted environment there.
And so I think it was January of 24 was when I changed the name of the practice from just Todd Watley PA to Generations Legal Group. And I did that on purpose because we were working with generations. I brought in a new attorney who's pretty much one generation younger than me, and we started working with younger people, and so just Todd Watley PA doing just elder law didn't seem to fit, and so we changed the name to Generations Legal Group, and I think it's fun. I enjoy it because there were now, at least two generations, and probably if we go a little further, we could almost do three generations. But Abby, talk about how in our office we work with so many generations. Tell them what your primary job is.
So my job is community liaison. I work with a lot of the facilities in the community that we're putting the elderly in, the ones who need more assistance. I mostly work with nursing homes. I am going in, I have relationships with a lot of the business office managers and the administrators, so I get a good idea of what these places believe in, their primary focus, and I try to see what's best fit for our clients. So I take our clients on tours of these facilities, I introduce them to the people that I know at those facilities, I help them ask the right questions, because usually when I'm going in with them, it's after we've had a meeting. We've heard their family situation, we've heard what's going on, what kind of care that they need, and so I'm there with them, I'm helping them ask the questions, because this is such an overwhelming time for our families. It's not fun, it's nothing that anyone wants to do. You don't want to put your loved ones into a nursing home.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
And so I am kind of taking the guesswork out of it, and I'm helping them, holding their hands in the process to make sure nothing gets missed and making sure we find a good fit for their loved one.
So what would you say are some of the key things that people need to be looking at when they are thinking about placement for a loved one? I know one's level of care. There
Yes.
are basically three levels: independent, assisted, and the full-on nursing home. Mm-hmm. Besides that, what are some things that people need to think about and be aware of?
A big one is location. You want them to be as close to you as possible. As their loved one, it does so much good for their health, for their well-being, for you to be in there visiting them as frequently as possible. So if it's close to home, if it's close to work, just somewhere that you can get to them easily. If you get a call that they're not doing well or they're having a rough day, you can go check on them. That's a big one. And then also, kind of the priorities of your loved one. If they like to be outside, make sure it's somewhere that has a secure outside place for them to be in, and they have activities that take them outside, whether it's gardening or bird watching or whatever it is. I think assessing what they need in order to help them thrive, even though they're not doing the best that they've ever done, but giving them an environment that they'll thrive in. So just make sure that their priorities line up with your loved ones.
Yeah, and people have a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. It's, turning over the care of your loved one to someone else is a big emotional process for people, and knowing what to ask. And I won't make you say what those are because it just seems kind of natural sometimes. But what seems natural to us seems very foreign to families. They're like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know what to ask. I don't know what to look for. And that's where Abby comes in, and she's done this numerous times and helps people figure out exactly what they are looking for and what they should be asking. Like we always say, you don't know what you don't know, and when you're going into a nursing home, there's a lot of things you don't know. So, anything to follow up on that?
I think there are a lot of assumptions from families when you're talking about nursing homes that it's just sending them somewhere to die, and that's not always the case. There are so many places in our community that love their residents so much and that they give top level of care. So I don't think you have to think of it as giving up on them or sending them somewhere that's not best for them. It is good to do your due diligence to make sure you're sending them somewhere that does care for them well, but I think just knowing that you're not doing them a disservice by putting them in a lot of these facilities, because they are wonderful places.
Yeah, and so how is it working with families? I mean, and not just placement, but in our office, I think we see a lot of people who come to us for their parents. And I think on the drive over here, you said, I think it was you. It's been a long day already. But so many times we get clients because they saw their parents go through things. Talk about that.
Yeah, we see a lot of clients that are like, I'm here because I had to deal with this with my parents and it wasn't easy. I want to set it up as smoothly as possible for my kids. The estate planning, the things like that they want to have in place, so if something happens to them, their kids have paperwork and they just show up with it. And they're not having to make their kids scramble and figure out and fight over things.
Yeah, we just did a phone call on the way here with a client whose father is passing away, and there were some issues with the will, and she was like, but Todd, I don't think the will is correct, and the will says things we don't want it to say, and no one agrees with this, and so if Dad dies, of course everything's going to go to probate. And I said, no, hang on a second. So that's one thing I do want to talk about is sometimes you get really bad advice from people, from nursing homes, from different places, and I do want to talk about paying for the nursing home, so don't let me forget that. But this lady was concerned because Dad's will, and he is on his deathbed. She said, I'm not sure that he's going to make it through today, and we are concerned that his will says some things we don't want to say. And I said, well, let's talk about that. What is in your dad's name only, with no co-owners and no beneficiaries? And she said, nothing, because we made sure when Mom died that we went to Dad and we made sure his bank accounts, his house, everything is his, but it's payable on death to primarily this one daughter. And they were concerned about money going to another child for various reasons. And so I said, okay, the bank accounts, investments, in the home at his death go to you. What else is there? And she said, nothing. There is nothing else. And I said, you don't have to worry about it. The will not come into play. And I think that surprises people because they're like, here's a will. It's a legal document, and we go to probate and we do what the will says. Well, the only thing that goes into probate is anything that is stuck in a dead person's name. And if nothing is stuck, you don't go through probate. And we are very adamant about this. Abby sometimes takes notes for me in meetings to help make sure we get everything down, and people are just surprised that they learn that there are ways to avoid probate. You can do a trust, but a trust is not for everybody. It's for a very limited amount of people who have a complexity in their estate plan. But just like this gentleman I just talked about who is about to pass away, we're going to totally avoid probate because everything he has is payable on death to someone else. Doesn't go through probate. The money's gone instantly. No lawyers, no court. It's very quick. It's very simple, and attorneys don't talk about it because it doesn't involve us. Okay, when you go and make payable on death, that doesn't involve us. I don't charge a fee for that because I don't do anything, and so therefore a lot of lawyers just don't talk about it. And so that is one thing that I want you to please understand is, get good advice, talk with someone who is going to make sure that you avoid probate. There is no reason you should go through probate if you don't have minor children, okay? So it's just one of my soapboxes. What is my other soapbox? Let's see, how in estate planning. What is the most important document?
A power of attorney.
There we go.
I was 18 years old at his office signing a power of attorney.
Why? Because
the hospital doesn't have to let your parents make decisions for you. Once you turn 18, you're your own person, and they don't have to give anybody information. So you need a power of attorney in order to let people make decisions for you.
I raised her so well. So, I mean, she grew up in this. And so, yes, power of attorney is the other document that is just so important, and particularly with generations. It's, and you need it. Everyone over the age of 18 needs a power of attorney, because if you become incapacitated and you're 18 years old, you as a parent of an 18, 19, 20-year-old is like, by George, I'm their parent. I'm going to walk in there and they're going to talk to me. They may not, okay? They may not talk to you, and particularly the bank, if your kid has their own bank account, their own car, their own whatever, you have absolutely no power once they turn 18. Just because you're their parent, but that's it. You have to have power of attorney, and it becomes particularly important once you get older and you start approaching the issue of incapacity, of not being able to get out and get around and do things as well. Having someone else that can go do that for you is just a beautiful tool, and it's convenient, but it is also very necessary when it comes to long-term care. And I don't have time before the break to go through that, but I do want to tell you, please, please, please do powers of attorney. It is absolutely the most important document, and not just any power of attorney. You have to do a power of attorney that is very comprehensive. And I'll address this after the break, but one of the things that you want in your power of attorney is gifting language, okay? People are like, why do I want my kid to be able to give away my money? Well, you do, because that's how we can protect it in Medicaid. And so you don't have to do a trust. We do trust, and it's primarily for people that have a very complex distribution scheme, okay? You don't want just equally divided. You want it something complicated, or you want to protect it for your kid. If your kid may go through bankruptcy, divorce, or lawsuit, that's a huge issue that you need to plan for, and we can do that, but we do it with the trust. But if you don't care, if you're just, hey, I want the money to go to my kids, here's the money, free, just don't blow it, but here it is. Payable on death is a very simple way to do that. It's quick, it's effective, and it's cheap, okay? I don't do anything. I just tell you, go do it, and you go do it, and it's done. I mean, if you want to do your house that way, we can do that, but you probably want me to do the deed for you. But that's the only thing that we charge, and you can completely avoid probate for very little money simply by making sure that everything that you have is payable on death to someone else. So I want to spend the last half, we kind of opened up about nursing homes and how to pick one. Now, how do you pay for one? Okay, and we got a phone call yesterday from a lady who said, hey, do y'all do Medicaid applications? And we said, yes. And we're like, okay, good. We may need you to do the application. And we gathered some information, and their parent had been there for years and had paid all of their money. They were down to about $10,000. And we're like, why did you do that? We could have protected a vast majority of that. They're like, well, we were just told you have to spend your money on the nursing home in order to get qualified for Medicaid. And Abby, no, that is not true. And so let's take a quick break. We'll be right back, and then we will talk about how to pay for the nursing home for both a single and a married person.
Hello, I'm Dave Todd, president of Todd Films. We work alongside Bella Vista Community Television to produce some of the content you see aired here. Have you thought about reaching your customers through a television ad? We have several options for you to consider. They range from coming to our studio here, or going to your place of business, or on location. Once you have your commercial, Bella Vista Community Television has several options for you to consider for airing your commercial. Do you have a live event that you would like to capture on video? We also offer live production packages that may be of interest. Please continue to tune in to Bella Vista Community Television. We hope you are enjoying this program. And now back to the show.
Hi there, welcome back. So, I am Todd Watley. This is my daughter, Abby Pledger, who works in our office. And so the first half of the show, we talked about picking out a good nursing home. Okay. Now I want to talk about how to pay for it, because I think that is one of the most common misunderstood things. And I just talked about, we got a phone call yesterday from a lady who had spent their parents' entire life savings. And under the Medicaid rules, we can protect half of that. Okay. And it's just, I spend my time here, I spend time speaking everywhere, I do a podcast, I do YouTube channel, I do everything to get the information out there to say you don't have to spend everything to qualify for Medicaid. The Medicaid rules are there to protect people. And so for a single person, we can protect half, okay? For a married couple, we can protect almost everything up to typically about $1 million. And it's the Medicaid rules that allow us to do that allow us to look at your assets if you're married and be able to transfer those assets to one spouse. We can only do that once the person goes into the nursing home. Now, we get phone calls all the time from people saying, you know, we just got married, or we've been married a few years, we kept our assets very separate, and so when he goes to the nursing home, they're just going to look at his assets, right? No, they will look at both spouses' assets, but that sounds bad, but it's really not bad, because we're able to transfer things from both spouses to one spouse. And that's very complicated. I do encourage you, let's sit down, let's talk about it, and figure out, you know, how we can do this for you, because every situation is different. But Abby, talk about sometimes when you're working with families and they need this care, how does it affect them when they find out that they don't have to lose everything?
We've sat in many, many meetings where people come in very disheveled. I'm about to lose everything. My wife, my husband needs a nursing home, and all of our money's about to go out the window because that's what Betty said.
Bet at the beauty shop.
Yes. And by the time our hour-long meeting is over and we've talked through how we can save their money and how we walk through this process with them, most people are like, wow, I can sleep tonight. I know that it's not going to be an easy process, but I at least don't have to waste everything that we ever worked for on a nursing home, and we get to pass this money on to our kids. We get to still use the money. We don't have to be completely broke in order to go on Medicaid.
Yeah. Talk about the single person that's in the nursing home. How much money does the state let them keep from their income?
It's a pop quiz.
Sorry.
It's okay.
$40.
Oh yes, $40. I have $40 allowance every month. I did know that.
Okay.
I was thinking the minimum income.
No.
So $40, I get to keep $40, which, what does that pay for? Not much.
Hamburgers are $15, $20
Yeah.
nowadays. And yeah, so a lot of times with the single person, and many times families are like, well, I don't need to protect them. I don't need their money. Okay, you don't, but your mom does, because once we get her, if she spent all of her money and then once she's broke, she applies for Medicaid, they're going to take all of her income, but for $40. $40 stinking dollars is all she gets for, and Medicaid doesn't pay for the beauty shop. They don't pay for snacks. They don't pay for, improved, in Continence supplies, depends, whatever. They use pretty cheap stuff. People don't like it. If you want the good stuff, you have to pay for it. $40 goes nowhere anymore. And it's depressing because I've been doing this for 27 years, and that number was the same number back 27 years ago. And to my knowledge, it was that number even way before that. They have not increased the number that the person gets to use to buy stuff. And it's depressing. And so by doing Medicaid planning for a single person, we're able to protect some of these funds and get this in a pot so that if mom wants a Sonic or wants hairdos or wants the really nice Depends, you have this pot of money, you can go buy things for them and truly make their life better. And it's just one of those things that sadly it's not common knowledge. You have to go to someone who does this and understands this and gives you good information, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So, I have to talk about my granddaughter for just a second. So, growing up, you're like, yeah, okay, but when does life really hit? Okay. Talking about generations, talking about when life becomes, it's like, oh, geez. Talk about that.
Yeah. I had a baby in September,
Yes.
So that was my first one. Life got flipped on its head for sure. But it does make it so real when you have a dependent, someone who relies on you and someone who you're responsible for raising, of like, knowing that I'm trying to make as good of a world for her as possible, and I'm trying to make sure everything is not easy, but is as set up for her as it can be. But and you've taught me well of how to make sure that we're protecting assets for her, savings, things like that, and I like that we're able to pass that comfort on to our clients to know that their generations to come are taken care of, that we're teaching them how to take care of themselves and their generations, that we're saving their wealth for generations. I think that's very important, and it has become even more evident recently how important that is.
Having a kid really wakes you up and makes you realize that you're not alone. It's like, I have something else to care for. And
It's not about me.
it's not all about me anymore. And it's funny because Abby, growing up, she was a sleeper. She loved her sleep. And if she didn't get a full night's sleep, we all were like, oh, God, it's going to be a bad day around Abby because she didn't get a full night's sleep. And I was like, babe, you're pregnant. Do you understand? You may not get sleep. And you've done a really good job. I mean, we were all kind of on pins and needles, like, how's this going to go? But she does a great job, and she's up all night and doing whatever needs to be done. And she brought me my first granddaughter, and so I'm super happy about that. We have 3 other boys, and another granddaughter we just announced on the way. So,
Not me.
Yeah,
Not me.
Yeah, not you, my son. And so. Let's talk, and I know that you don't at this point know a lot about the finances, but one of the things we are working on is, I have my Series 65, and so I got that because I was seeing clients who were north of 60 and we're just in horrible investments. And Abby helps me in the office, and she makes copies of the bank statements and stuff. And, we just look at it and it's just like, oh my goodness, why did you buy this annuity at this age that's going to have a huge penalty for years or whatever? And I was able to do the Medicaid part of saying, okay, here's where you are now, let's get you qualified. And sometimes we had to do some really ugly things with their finances because they were not in great investments and they were not positioned for long-term care. And I finally got my gut full of it enough that I was like, okay, I'm going to go get my license and I'm going to do this. And so that's kind of a new thing that I'm doing for the last 2 years or so, is to say, look, I want to work with people as early as possible, but particularly once they start getting older, to look at their finances and try to get things set up and arranged so that you can qualify for long-term care easier and be prepared for it, okay? Abby's helped me do some applications and things in the past for long-term care insurance, things like that. And so what I love about my office, and I'm slowly getting people, Abby's going to help me on the financial side eventually, is to help people both legally and financially be able to sit down in one office and let's look at your legal stuff, let's get all of that straightened out, but let's also look at your financials. Let's see where you are right now, how are you positioned in light of the stock market going way up and the stock market going way down. And I think this is where, and I'm teaching Abby this over time, is we see people that are really positioned to go up, and that's great if the stock market's gone up, which it has for the last few years. Everyone's made money if you're invested, pretty much. If you didn't, that's a huge problem. My concern is everything that goes up has to come down, okay? And so as it comes down, how far is it going to go down? And I have analyzed some people's accounts that if the stock market does what it's done in the past, they could lose 40% of their estate. And at Abby's age, you could lose 40. It's like, fine, I have time, I can write it back up. But if you're 65, 70, 80 years old and you lose 40%, that's going to be devastating to you and future generations. And it just scares me that their advisor has them positioned probably like he or she has all of their clients. They're all in the same thing all the time. But if you're 80, or 60, you need to look at things differently. You need to start planning for what if this happens, what if this happens, not just cookie cutter investments, but things that say, if this goes down, how far is it going on? And there are times we can cut a 40% down spike to 12 to 15%. And so if the stock market does horrible things like it's done in the past, you're only going down 12%. That's much better and not as devastating as going down 40%. And so we are trying our best at Generations Legal Group to bring people on who can address every little thing that we're looking at, both legal and financial. We just hired a new attorney, younger than you. She's younger than you, isn't she? Yeah. So we kind of have our third generations. There's me at 60 and the other attorneys early 40s and the other ones mid 20s. And so we are covering the generations. We can work with young people, we can work with middle-aged people, and we can work with old people. Old people's where I kind of focus. That's what I've done my entire career, and now that I am one.
Yeah.
No snide comments. But, we absolutely love what I do. I love it so much that I bring in my kids. And my son is transitioning, hopefully, eventually, to work with me on the financial side. And so we just, at Generations Legal Group, we truly try to work with the entire family, the older, the middle, the younger, and, look at. And since I've got my investment license, we can look at everything. You can bring in everything to us, and I've got attorneys to work on that. I can look at the financial. I'm getting Abby and my son to be able to also look at the financial and help us be able to truly sit down and handle everything under one roof. So, anything else? We have like 2 minutes.
I can't think of any.
So thank you. I just want to say thank you for the years of listening to us. We've been doing this show for quite some time. There have been some changes that are going on that really don't matter in the big scheme of things. But again, Generations Legal Group is where we are focused. It's what we love to do. I love to do it. My daughter has seen me do it for her entire life. And we truly look at things holistically, and we are helping generations, number one, the older generation get the care that they need without going broke. We're helping the next generation who is typically in their 50s or so. Kids are grown. The estate plan that they did many years ago is no longer adequate. It's like, yeah, when we did this last time, the kids were 5, 8, and 12. They needed guardians. They needed a whole lot of things. Well, now they're grown. They don't need those things so much, and so their estate plan changes. And then for that younger generation, it's like, get your stuff together, okay? Do that power of attorney. You're over 18. You're newly married. You want your new spouse to be your agent, not your parents, typically. But there are just a lot of things that get done, and we can always do a better job working beforehand than in a crisis. We can do some really cool things in a crisis. We do it every day because people call and say, oh my God, Dad's going into the nursing home. Is it too late? No, we can do some things, but pre-planning is always better. And so I would encourage you, call the office, 479-601-4119, and we would be honored to work with your family. Thanks, Abby.
Yeah, you're welcome.